Flair to try to get him back. Oh, he threw Flair over the top rope. Fujinami just threw Ric Flair over the top rope. Did Alfonso...
Hey, this is the Toxic Reign Scandal featuring TBK the Turnbuckle King. Got another good one for you guys today. This time we're going to talk about Ric Flair and his infamous match, I should say, against Fujinami. This is back in 1991. And this was the match at WCW Japan Supershow, and it would, or you could call it Starrcade. Meanwhile, this was a match that Ric Flair was the NWA's World Champion, but this was against Fujinami, who ended up winning his championship, the IWGP Championship, and also the NWA's champion, Ric Flair's championship, but he didn't do it in clean fashion. These both belts were on the champions. These both championships were on the line that night. Thing about it is, it was not a proper finish, and since it wasn't, it led to a lot of chaos, a lot of heat. But we know this was regarding these two that was facing off against each other. Now, they did later on have a rematch, and this rematch was at Super Brawl 1, and this was Super Brawl. This match happened down the line. In this match between Ric Flair and Fujinami, it was here, Super Brawl, Return of the Rising Sun. They had a rematch where Ric Flair did win the rematch, but it was a very, very faulty and dirty finish to how Ric Flair lost championship to Fujinami. Now let's give a rundown of this match between these two before we begin. And then later on, I'll give plenty of interviews, what people had to say about it, etc., etc. But get your seats at the locker room. As usual, about to air some dirty laundry. So let's air that dirty laundry. The thing about it is, the main event of the WCW New Japan Super Show, or Starrcade 91, because they have two different titles. So if you hear Starrcade 91, or you will know this is the same event, just to let you guys know. Meanwhile, it was the IWGP Champion Tatsumi Fujinami versus NWA Champion Ric Flair. In the controversy, the New Japan, they wanted Fujinami to go over on his home turf and win the NWA. But WCW had worried that Fujinami would not be a draw on American soil. That was the main concern of him winning his championship. They didn't think he would be a major draw. Let's continue on with the story. And they know it was a classy, as they call it, dusty finish. It drew a lot of heat from Japanese sports at the time. But the thing about it is the reason that the match went down like the way it did. It was Japan's way of, even though they had rebuilt bridges with Ric Flair, it's said that Ric Flair, despite being the champion, being the man, despite all that, they said that back in February 1990 at the Tokyo Dome show, at the last minute, Ric Flair was supposed to face the Great Muta. But Ric Flair had bailed out on this particular match, and the reason was the Nature Boy was dissatisfied with New Japan's proposed payment for the match. So later on in 1991, a year later, they were, like I said, they were men fences, have a relatively fruitful relationship. But despite that, I think it was their way of getting back at Ric Flair for bailing out on that big match against one of Japan's own legendary, the Great Muta. So they had him face Fujinami, but he lost in very, very controversial fashion. So this is the crazy part about it. And the thing about it is, if you look here, when Ric Flair went over the top rope, he was supposed to do that. That's in Japan's rules. Japan's rules, to let you guys know. For those who don't follow Japan wrestling, that is an automatic disqualification. You're never supposed to do that on their turf. When you go over the top rope with Japan, automatic DQ. And since this was a championship match, it led to that. So let's see here.
They're trying to get him back. Oh, he threw Flair over the top rope. Fujinami just threw Ric Flair over the top rope. Did Alfonso see it?
So when Ric Flair went over that top rope in that match at the Super Show in 1991, that was an automatic disqualification since it was Ric Flair's title on the line. Title that was on the line. I don't think Fujinami title was on the line. Thing about it is, that is not how things supposed to be done. I mean, that was pretty dirty how that went down. And no one said nothing about it. That was very, very dirty. Very dirty to say the least. I mean, New Japan know what they did.
I didn't know what they know what you did. I know what you're talking about. I was fair and square. You know what you're a legend, man.
So when it did go down like that, that was not how it's supposed to be. And since it seemed like people ignored it when it went down that way, and it wasn't supposed to be. It's not supposed to go down that way. I know Japan do a lot of things differently. I spoke about this on the channel before. I spoke about the issue with Hulk Hogan. Check that video out. Brock Lesnar. Ric Flair would be no different. So the thing about it is, since it did go down that way, it was Ric Flair's NWA World Championship on the line. But the WCW World Heavyweight Championship was not. They said United States and Japan was presented differently. They say United States, it was considered the same championship and represented by one belt. But the pay-per-view announced that Fujinami's IWGP Heavyweight Championship was also online, even though there was no mention during the introductions. That lets you know that's another dirty tactic move by New Japan. So, but the outcome of the match was very differently. So, and then we can see the finish right here. This is how the finish went down. This is how you could tell something sketchy was going down with New Japan, as they always do things sketchy over there. So let's take a moment to look into that.
Make disqualification in this particular match. My question is, did Alfonso see it? There's a guillotine.
So it was just 1, 2, 3, and there you go. Ric Flair loses the match, and he loses NWA World Championship, and he loses to Fujinami in very controversial fashion. As you can see here, this is him with both titles. Despite him putting Ric Flair over the top rope, automatic DQ. Well, let's see what you guys have to say in the locker room. Terrence Little said, "What up, man? Welcome to the locker room. How often do you guys wrestle?" Laverne, what's going on? Woo, that's right. Woo. You says that Bobby Heenan. Oh, you're referring to this photo here? Yes, that is the legendary Bobby Heenan. I heard Yokozuna was Samoan, not Japanese. That's true. Yes, Yoka was Yokozuna, not Yokozuna. Yokozuna. You spelled his name wrong, but I understand what you meant. He's a part of the famous Anoa'i family, the same family that Roman Reigns is in, the same family that The Rock is in, the same family that the Usos are in, and the same family that Rikishi is in. In most USA, the world title is, in most sports, USA has the world title aside from Olympics. Yeah. But yeah, this is a crazy, very crazy how this match finished. Fujinami was never supposed to win this way. But like I said, it was their way of getting back at Ric Flair because he bailed out on a match in 1990. So it was there. The way I see it, it was the reason the match went down like that. The finish was, it was Literally revenge on Flair. They're not going to say that that's what that's what it is. Because he bailed on the match. But other than that, though, that is the whole summary of the match. Now, like I said later on, they had a rematch. Super Brawl won. This match was in 1993, 2 years later from that date. Now, Ric Flair won this match. He won the match at the Super Brawl, and I don't think these two ever had that. And now I think that was the end of that feud. Now, with the match between Flair and Fujinami, or however you say his name, Fujinami. But anyway, the point about it is, I will say at least Ric Flair got his win back. And this time it was on American soil. So when that did happen, it was Super Brawl number, I think it was number 1. No, I'm sorry. Super Brawl number, it says in 93, The Rising Sun. So I believe this Super Brawl, if I'm not mistaken, I believe this was number, well, it was the Return of the Rising Sun. I don't think it was a certain number on this one. I know it was in 93. And Ric Flair did win. Like I said, he won his win back as he should have, especially the way he was screwed. Because it was not good how that went down. And I don't think there was any more. I think they wrestled again, but it was no big deal like it was before. It was the first Super Brawl. I'm sorry, the Super Brawl was in May 1991. May 1991. We take that back. (1991) where Ric Flair won. And Ric Flair was still the reigning champion. But it was both titles on the line. And Ric Flair did win, like I said before. He did win the match. It was, like I said, a rematch. And I think this match here was, it was 18 minutes. But like I said, other than that, between these two, between Flair and Fujinami, I don't think it was any big deal after this. But I know this was May of 91. And the other match was in 91. Let's see what else you guys got to say. I appreciate that, Laverne. I appreciate your support. Yeah, I know he's on right now. Shout out to Good Bread. But yeah, Super Brawl, Return from the Rising Sun. Like I said, it's the rematch. It wasn't that much, not that long ago, actually, because the New Japan Super Show match, that match, the Super Show or Starrcade 91, that match was in March. So this match was literally what, 2 months later. But other than that, though, this was the good part about this. Now, with that being said, since I explained both matches, there will be an interview from Jim Ross talking about how Ric Flair was done, how the finish ended. And then also we'll get on to Tony Schiavone. He goes on his podcast, What Happened When. He talks about the rematch of Super Brawl 1. So with that being said, let's get into that. Laverne, you said actually watch with my dad. Which event you referring to? Are you talking about Super Brawl 1? Or are you talking about the WCW New Japan Super Show 1? I don't know which one, because we're talking about one match, this main match, but this is the rematch. I don't know which one you're talking about, because they had 2 matches together. It's just the one that he got screwed was in New Japan 1991. But other than that, though, we're going to see what JR has to say about it in a second. Okay, the New Japan 1991 Super Show. Okay. That's what's up. But let's get into it. We'll see what the good old JR got to say, Jim Ross, and he will talk about this match.
This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's jump into it. On March 21st, we saw WCW and New Japan do a super show where Fujinami defeated Ric Flair to win the world title. Fujinami was already the IWGP World Champion, so this made him the first man to hold both world titles at the same time. Pretty controversial finish, and maybe a little convoluted. How did you understand the finish? Did you ever personally consider Fujinami the WCW World Champion? It is a little confusing.
Yeah, well, it just didn't get over. That's what you're saying. I think you're saying it didn't get over. You know, it was one of those deals where everybody kept looking and looking and looking for the out. Well, we got to take care of Nate. You know, Nate didn't really need anybody to take care of him. You know, if you just let this up to Nate and said, "Hey, Rick, we want to put the belt for a short term on Fujinami, as it would help us create a better working relationship with New Japan. It gives you more quality guys to work with as we go forward. But to launch this relationship, we want to put him over in Tokyo. And can you come? We'd like for you to come up with how you want to do it." That's what I'd have done. I don't know if that was done or not. But that you just tell Nate what you wanted and let him craft his own match. I mean, my God, he's at that time he was, and for many times before and after, by the way, he was the best worker in the business. So could you not trust the best worker in the business to come up with a finish that it serves everyone's needs? I always believe that we overthought that thing immensely. I always believe that Fujinami should have won with his finish. Period. Oh my God, you can't do that. Jesus Christ, hell, it's Ric Flair. You got to have an out. Yeah, you got to out wrestle one night, and for 3 seconds, the other guy was better. And count on your announcers, i.e., yours truly and Tony Schiavone.
So let me stop here. This is what I know they're playing a video game version. This is the finish. Like I say again, this is what Jim Ross is talking about. This is how this was done.
There to try to get him back. Oh, he threw Flair on the top rope. Fujinami just threw Ric Flair over the top rope. Did Alfonso see it?
And then later, this is how to finish it.
Disqualification in this particular match. My question is, did Alfonso see it? There's a guillotine.
So he's saying that Jim Ross is saying that Fujinami should have won with the finisher and not do it that way. And with that being said, Jim Ross got a point. Do I agree with that? Most definitely.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Meanwhile, Japan didn't want to do it clean. They pretty much felt like Hulk Hogan.
No, brother, doesn't work for me right now.
But let's continue on and see what Jim Ross had to say.
To tell the story and protect our guy, which we would have done. So I just thought it was a well overthought. You know, we got to have an out. We got to have a screw job. We got, I don't know. I'm not big on the screw job shit. It's just runs course. Too many people know what's going on. Now we try to fool them by doing a hokey ass, screw job type. I don't, Conrad, I'll be honest with you. I didn't go back and watch this show because I don't like it.
Oh my gosh, I love you, Jim. Well, here's the thing that was.
Well, I'm gonna be honest, or I can bullshit people. You know, they don't tune into us for you and me to lie to them, bullshit them. There's plenty of podcasts that do that, revisionist history and all that stuff.
Jim Ross got a good point. We don't have time for the cap. We hear enough of cap as is. So I'd rather have Jim Ross be honest with it. So we get tired of that, but he got a good point. I'd rather hear the truth on that. Carl Myers, salute, man. Thanks for coming out, bro. But let's continue on see what Jim Ross had to say about this match.
I'm just telling you how I felt about it. The event under-delivered. We're going to explain exactly why under-delivered as we go through the show, and then it will become obvious to most people that are objective and would rather be objective than just be defiant. But anyway, Flair should have come up with a finish. He's the champion, and he's doing the honors. Why would you want anybody else to help put it together? And I think other people were involved in it. So now you're just trying to come up with a finish that becomes a watered-down version of what you really wanted it to be so that you can keep Rick happy. And I don't think that's the way you keep Rick happy. Well, he got his way. Is that what he was looking for, to get his way? Or was he looking to do good business and the right business? I think the latter.
Welcome to the best seat in your house, your players, your teams.
What I'm excited about on this show is my fandom as a kid. You know, I this probably doesn't hold up, but as a kid, man, there was so much great stuff on this one match in particular. Before we talk about that, though, I do want to talk about this New Japan relationship. It's more than just the main event, which is a little confusing, and maybe you don't recall, but the idea is Fujinami won the belt on March 21st, but Ric Flair took it back to America, and nobody really knew why, and the office was just like, just don't worry about it. So I guess we can't really worry about it because we don't really understand.
Well, if the office doesn't give a shit enough to worry about it, then why should we?
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
So, yeah, I don't know what. I can understand the belt coming back. If Fujinami was not going to defend the title, and apparently that was part of the deal, he didn't need to have the belt over there. So I think that for security purposes, that the WCW did not want their belt to be in Japan with the champion because he wasn't going to defend it, and they wanted to control the belt. It got to become a lot of politics and, you know, a little bit of skullduggery and the art of the work, protecting your investment. Everything was amplified, and all it was, everybody involved became looking like dumbasses, quite frankly, because we're overprotective. We're coming with excuses. I don't know, man. It was the foundation for this program was poorly conceived, and I think that the result of this match that we're talking about here today will testify to that.
Time for some more of that. Our main event: Ric Flair pins Tatsumi Fujinami in 1836 to retain the WCW title in a rare battle of world champions. Meltzer would say, "Live, this was a lot better than in Tokyo. Some have told me on top they didn't think this was as good." But it was just a stiff, excellent, well-paced match up until the finish. Flair was really alive for this one and sold Fujinami's submission so well that the match had surprising. Flair was the crowd favorite, but Fujinami's reaction wasn't too bad, and he did awe the crowd with the bow and arrow move, which kind of got everyone into thinking he was something special. Flair bled after being run into the guardrail. They missed the bridging spot, and the finish saw Hattori get bumped, and immediately Flair got Fujinami from behind with a cradle using the trunks, and Alfonso jumps in and counts the pin. Everyone was mad about the finish, which was the design reaction. The idea was they want to make everyone mad that Flair was leaving the ring. Since Flair was going to be the crowd favorite, since they didn't really even try to get Fujinami over, they needed a finish that would make everyone mad. At least that's the psychology behind it. The problem is, and the years-long trend of diminishing house show crowds bear this out, is today's fans don't get mad at the heel for the screwjob finish. They get mad at the promotion, which is a fine way to end a pay-per-view card. 3 3/4 stars. What'd you think? Did we outsmart ourselves on the finish?
Yeah, without a doubt. And Fujinami, I don't believe, and your father-in-law could probably speak to this better than I. Obviously, I don't think Fujinami would have had any issues at all returning the favor. I don't think with all the tight pulling and all the screw jobs and all that shit, You got two of the greatest in-ring performers of their generation. And you're telling me this is the best we could come up with? Bill Alfonso involved, Masahiro Tori getting bumped. It sounded like an old school pro wrestling finish that you would use if you're working a return. And by the way, Conrad, was there a return match? I don't remember one. Do you? That's it. And they're both being booked like it's going to be you're in the weekly town.
Yeah.
And it was the wrong psychology. So Rick should have done the honors in Tokyo where the triumphant Tatsumi Fujinami gets his hand raised and wins this wonderful NWA title, or WCW title, whatever it was at that point. And that's another thing that was kind of stupid. But nonetheless, it just didn't make any sense. The whole thing was overthought, in my opinion. You could have great matches because this could have been a match where the world could have been still talking about in a much more positive, different way, Conrad, in my opinion. But instead, what we're focusing on are the tights. So I guess the answer to that whole thing is they should just wrestle naked.
The March 21st show over in Tokyo got 3.5 stars in the Observer. This one gets 3 3/4 stars. So Meltzer liked it better. He even laid that out. Of the finish, Meltzer wrote, Dusty Rhodes didn't come up with the Flair finish, apparently, which is why both he and Jim Ross never acknowledged the trunks being used in commentary. Dusty should have at least specified one ref bump, since they already had 2 others on the card.
Bingo.
Right?
Yeah.
Ref bump. Whatever. Too many gimmicks, too many screw job finishes, but a lot of talent. That feels like the story of WCW in 1991.
It sure does, and it led to the exit of a lot of folks. People were ready to leave. We saw, personally, it's just frustrating when you're out there calling the match, and you want to do the best job that you can, and you want the fans to enjoy your work. That was always my goal: to get the talent over and enjoy what they're hearing. But boy, some of this booking it took the air out of one's sails, and this show just was that way. It was a funky booked show. It might even be called wonky, Conrad. I got corrected so many times on Twitter about me making fun of the word wonky. I wasn't making fun of the word wonky, kids. I was making it about its overuse. That's all. And at the end of the day, does it make a shit? Not a damn bit. Wonky your ass off. Like there's another T-shirt. I'm wonking the floor over you. So, anyway, I wouldn't sell shit there. Nonetheless, all good. But I just thought it was poorly booked. And some of the execution, the talents overachieved. We talked about the Freebirds match, overachieving. I thought it was great. Steiner's match, excellent. In my view, Arn and Bobby. But and so it wasn't a total disaster. But the show could have been a whole hell of a lot better. It was overbooked. There's things on the show that didn't need to be on the show. The introduction of Johnny B. Bad, lukewarm, the dancing, the pissing bears. Really?
Okay, I want to make a notate of this. WCW, even back in 1991, before they went out of business, got bought by WWE 10 years later in 2001, WCW was always known for poor booking and booking poor matches and poor feuds, everything. And as you can see, so this was mentioned by Jim Ross of 1991. This poor booking, continuously going over and over and over again with WCW, this was slowly led to their demise and the company closing its doors in 2001. So this was a very, very poor booking, as he said. I saw the match. And with this match being booked this poor and no proper finish, because I think Dusty Rhodes was a part of that booking, this would put WCW on the list.
You just made the list!
So I think they almost done this interview. Let's see what else Jim Ross and Conrad have to say.
What are we thinking? But you can see how hard the management wanted WCW to resemble what they perceived as a WWE, WWF-esque presentation. And that was because the upper management above Herd thought that the only way to do wrestling was to do it Vince McMahon style. It works for Vince McMahon, but again, we should have been doing our own thing.
Yeah.
And creating a different image, a different style, and all that would have had to be was just go back to fundamental things and have clearly defined heroes and villains. And here's why they're fighting, and let the fans help book it. And it's just, so I didn't hate the show, hate, but I would say if I had to give my thumbs somewhere other than up my ass, it would be thumbs in the middle.
Yeah.
There's some things on there were so good. I couldn't give the show a thumbs down, but I thought the show could have been a whole lot better if the booking had been more thought out. And we had tried to introduce so many new things. What sticks in that show? Let me ask you this question. As a very learned fan, a very intelligent man, what things stick out on that show to you?
It'll always be, to me, about the Steiners stinging legs. Whenever I think of this show, that's what I think of. And I think the readers of The Observer agree. That won the best match poll. The worst match poll, they agreed with us, Elegante and Sid Vicious. Overall, though, the show got 59.6% thumbs up. I'm in that category. 25.5% were thumbs down. I thought you would have been there, but instead you said you were amongst the other 14.9%. Thumbs in the middle. So, hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe.
All right, that is the end of that interview of Grilling with JR with Conrad Thompson talking about the New Japan match of Ric Flair versus Fujinami. They talk about how the finish was booked very poor. They said the event was solid, but it was okay, but it could have been done a lot better. Now, they had another match. They didn't book this as a rematch. Like I said, they had Super Brawl 2 months later, 1991, between Ric Flair and Fujinami. It was for Ric. I think the way they booked it was weird. This match originally with Ric Flair and Fujinami, even though they did not book the rematch, as I said before, they didn't mention that Fujinami defeated him. But Flair was billed as the WCW World Heavyweight Champion, and the thing about it is, Fujinami in the previous match was not only won the match, he was the first wrestler to hold the IWGP and the NWA World Championship. I forgot to mention that, but thing about it is, Ric Flair did defeat him in the second match at Super Brawl, but they said it was supposed to be billed for both championships, Ric Flair's WCW World Heavyweight Championship and Fujinami's IWGP Championship. Now, it was billed for both championships, but they did not mention during the match that Fujinami title would be on the line too. So it's kind of false advertising, in my opinion. So it's supposed to be both titles on the line, but it ended up being only one. So both titles on the line, but only Flair's. So this was the second match, but not booked as a rematch. It's crazy because they book it one way in Japan, and then USA, the States, a different way. Now, they said the storyline was Flair defending the WCW in America. They made him more than a heroic hero character, being a babyface, than the villain that he'd been prior year. He was booked as the babyface in this match, defending, like I said, the championship in America. But this match, like I said, 18-minute match. And I know that Tony Schiavone, he talks about this particular match. and he talks about it for a while. But he has some things to say about the match. So we'll pull that up in a second. Of Tony Schiavone talk about this on his podcast, talking about it's called "What Happened When" with Tony Schiavone. So good podcast. I heard it before. Much credit to him. Let's see what Tony Schiavone had to say about it. Like I said, Tony Schiavone on the Super Brawl match, or Super Brawl 1. So let's see. Flair versus Fujinami. If I said his name right. But let's see. You guys know what I mean by that. But let's get into it. And let's see what was his thoughts on this match. And hit that like, subscribe, key notification bell when you come on into the locker room.
So here I am in the back, and Jim and Dusty. I'm, as you can see to my left, we have members of the Japanese contingent, IWGP, and as you can see, Fujinami is in the back. And I'm going to try to get, I don't know if I'll get Mr. Sato or not, or Saito, and maybe get a chance to talk to him. But here he goes, Fujinami and another guy, Mr. Saito. Oh, and here it, yes. Tell me what you think about this match. This match coming up the world title. I tell you, stop being old commentary ninja, make fun of us. Yeah, he shot my shit down, didn't he? Let's go back to the ring for this main event.
I do like the main event. I think this is probably an underrated match. There was a lot of politics involved with this one. You know, Meltzer would write, live, this was a lot better match than in Tokyo. Some have told me they didn't think it was that good. But live, it was just a stiff, excellent, well-paced match up until the finish. Flair was really alive for this one and sold Fujinami's submissions so well that the match had surprising heat. Flair was the crowd's favorite. But Fujinami's reaction wasn't too bad, and he did all the crowd with the bow and arrow move, which kind of got everyone thinking he was something special.
Watch live and local news.
The guardrail, they did the bridging spot. And the finish saw Hattori get bumped, and immediately Flair got Fujinami from behind with a cradle using the trunks, and Bill Alfonso jumped in and countered the fall. Everyone was mad about the finish, which was the design reaction. The idea they wanted to make everyone mad at Flair leaving the ring, since Flair was going to be the crowd favorite. Since they didn't even really try to get Fujinami over, they needed a finish that would make everyone mad. At least that's the psychological theory. The problem is the continuing years-long trend of diminishing house show crowds should bear this out. Because on today's fans don't get mad at the heel for the screw job finish. They get mad at the promotion, which is a fine way to end a pay-per-view card.
Yeah.
3 3/4 stars.
See that silver jacket?
Yep.
I have one of those, I think.
You need to bring that to Starrcade.
If I can find it. I may have given it away.
How about Flair here? Going to come out with a robe.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got some ladies. He's got a maid and a chef and a butler. And one of these ladies is going to have what they're describing as a sterling silver platter.
Right.
And he's going to wear his Rolex up to her underneath his robe, pop it off and leave it on the deal, which I thought was one of the silly things you guys tried. You guys tried several little gimmicks like this for Rick over the years, and this one kind of seemed a little weird to me.
Yeah, this was a Jim Herd endorsed type thing. And now we're going to see something that Rick had done many, many times throughout the years. Oh, did I leave my Rolex in the hotel? Did I leave it with that girl? Where is it? There you got the short hair.
The little Dutch boy gimmick.
Yeah, didn't want. I want to, and I want you to help me out with this. Well, we were in the Tokyo Egg Dome.
Yep.
Earlier in the year.
Yep.
Fujinami beat Flair.
Yep.
We came back with the world title belt.
That's right.
I remember we were in Roppongi in Japan, in Tokyo afterwards, and we were all in the bar, and I was talking to Dusty about this, that I didn't understand how Flair lost the title but we didn't give him the belt. And Dusty basically said, we're going home with the belt. That's it. What happened there? Did we screw over New Japan Pro Wrestling or IWGP or whatever and say, yes, we'll give you the title, but we're going to keep the belt and not let him have the belt?
You got to remember, the world this is pre-internet. So it was presented two different ways. During the show, it's announced that the world title is on the line, the NWA World title, but not the WCW World title. Now in the US, people consider those championships to be the same and represented by the same belt.
Right.
Well, everywhere people consider that. And the announcers said that the IWGP heavyweight title was also on the line, even though they didn't say that during the introductions. The Japanese crowd believes that Fujinami beat Flair by pinfall, therefore he won the NWA World title. But the title change was completely ignored in the US, claiming that Fujinami was disqualified for throwing Rick over the top rope, and therefore he did not win the match.
Right. I remember that.
So they do the rematch here, and they're going to see Flair regain the NWA title, but realistically, WCW is just going to say that it was a successful title defense against Fujinami. So it's acknowledged by the NWA, but not acknowledged by WCW, and that makes no sense. But technically, those are separate things, but I guess they're represented by the same belt. Hopefully that's just as confusing for you as it is for me. But the reality is, they let Fujinami, quote unquote, win the belt that night, and then later said, nope, didn't count. Threw him over the top rope, so it was a DQ, so the belt came home.
Yeah, and if I recall, JR and I were the announcers to voice over the tape afterwards, so we did say that. And I remember, the over the top rope, we had to explain that. But, and all that being said, I just thought, and I was kind of, at this time, I was very sensitive to bad finishes. And I just thought we completely fucked the crowd in Japan at that time, because the crowd was so big. It was gigantic in Tokyo Egg Dome. And I thought I was just kind of sensitive to, crowd thinking what they got and didn't get it. So I was confused, and I just wasn't sure that was the right thing to do. But God, here we are 18 years later. What the fuck, right?
There's the bow and arrow that got everybody's attention.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, with Priceline VIP Family, you can unlock deals 5 times faster. You don't even have to be an actor.
This is crazy how this match is getting booked. The rematch, it's all over the place. It's that whole New Japan, USA thing. Tony Schiavone continue. They're breaking this down very well.
And here we had 2 referees, one on the outside.
I just realized looking at these boots, I used to own one of those.
One of them?
Yeah. I never had a pair of those, but I had one of those and WWE lost it.
Really?
Yeah.
They lose it. It's pretty cool. They're doing some pretty good stuff here.
Yeah, they are. Flair's selling his ass off for him.
Yes, he is.
I'm always curious in a match like this, like, how do you communicate? Like,
right.
I know Hattori is there, so I assume that, or I shouldn't say assume. I know that, he speaks English, so I'm sure that's the way they do it. But you don't always have a bilingual referee, and I guess sometimes you just know. Like when Flair was in the corner there, he sort of gave him his leg, so you knew, do something with the leg. But now what he's going to do from here, you just got to figure out.
Well, there was
Speaking
probably a lot of pre-match discussion with all 3 of them in the same room.
Yeah.
And I mean, there was. And you got to think about, Fujinami didn't speak English, or if he did, he just spoke very little, maybe enough to know some words. Don't know. And maybe he was waiting for those words. But I mean, think about all the years that guys wrestled in Japan, or Japanese wrestlers wrestled over here. We saw Ring of Honor, and we saw that championship they had, that championship match, which I thought was very good. And I don't know how much English or Japanese were. I just don't know. But they've always seemed to have good matches. So, but you're right. Hattori was the red shoes before his time, right? Or is red shoes here too?
Yeah, I mean, that's like that. That's who he is.
Yeah. But he's not the same red shoes who they use now, who got a big pop. Remember at the Ring of Honor show? Am I right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Forearm shot, try to get a cover, 1-2. Fujinami's coming to Starrcade.
How about that?
That is cool. That is absolutely cool. I may not come back to the East Coast.
Think it's going to live out there?
I'm going to live out there. Oh, missed that one.
I mean, I'd be down with that, by the way.
Oh, I know you would. Whoa, didn't miss that one. Try it again.
I'd come visit more often. I guess I'd be welcome there, though,
You're welcome here.
No.
You are.
Your wife told me I'm not allowed.
I know.
Too much dog hair.
Yeah, no, it's more than just that.
But you've been to my house 38 times. I've never been to yours.
I know. I'd like to come there 39, 40, 41, 42 soon. But
we're doing a big Starrcade planning meeting here a couple weeks.
Really?
You want to come?
When is it?
It'll probably be out of here, but I think it's like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th of May.
Oh my God. I think I can make it.
It'd be fun.
2nd, 3rd. Can I bring Bug?
Yeah, please do.
I'm going to need to, because I need him to be with me for this.
One of my dogs got struck by a car over the weekend.
No.
Yeah, everybody's fine. No broken legs. Nothing wrong.
Was it baby?
Yeah.
Oh no.
She's stupid.
Yeah, but she's a cool stupid.
Yeah, she's alive.
Yeah.
And fine. Just sore.
Don't let her outside, man.
I didn't know she was. One of the girls let her out, and I thought she was back in. I said, "Hey, is baby in the house?" And they thought I said, "Baby's in the house."
Oh my God. She ventured up there. I mean, that's dangerous going way out of your neighborhood there.
No, it was on my street.
Oh, okay, good.
So it wasn't like major traffic or anything.
All right. Well, so anyway, I think I can make that.
What do you think of Fujinami here in the main event? We haven't really talked about him as sort of a viable pay-per-view attraction. You guys were trying something different here with, you did the Japanese Super Show, and now here is the rematch. He's their top in New Japan, he's their world champion. He's their top star. Do you like this? You guys working a partnership internationally with New Japan? Or did you think, these rednecks in Florida won't get it?
Well, I thought both. I thought I liked it, but I thought, these rednecks in Florida won't get it. And even the guy in the front row ringside with his chin on his hand was showing how bored he was. But I think that international wrestling Japanese guys, you had to have a certain taste for it. I think, especially, go back to this Ring of Honor show that we saw at Madison Square Garden. The fans had a taste for it. And the reasons fans had a taste for it is because that you now see New Japan Pro Wrestling on American TV. And I think back then it would have served much better if fans would have been able to see it. Of course, we're just beginning with the internet revolution back then. I understand that. The world's going to get smaller now once the internet explodes. And really, for most of these fans, with the exception of what we said on TV, Tatsumi Fujinami was they didn't know who the hell he was, right?
Right.
Okay, that is the end. We'll close it there with the interview. You guys pretty much get the point. Ric Flair and the world champion, he went to get championship back from Fujinami at Super Brawl 1 in May of 1991, which he did win. Now, USA did not count it as him winning it back. It was him retaining it due to Flair being thrown over the top rope. So Ric Flair was still champion, but we know he went to win that back. And Japan had it booked as Fujinami was doing a job back to Flair. But this was Super Bowl 1993 that Tony Schiavone and Conrad Thompson was talking about. But other than that, though, guys, you guys let me know who was in the wrong as far as the first match in Japan between Flair himself and Fujinami. Who was in the wrong here of how the book was finished? I would say WCW should have booked that, just like JR said earlier, a lot better. Like I said, go over the top rope. That's automatic DQ. So that put it in the wrong. But like I said, Ric Flair, I know he had more issues with the Big Gold Belt. Remember, he had an issue with Bill Watts, and ultimately led him to leaving because he was not paid his $25,000 deposit back. That led him to taking the WCW or NWA World title onto WWE television. That's why we saw him later on at some point with the championship on WWE TV with Bobby Heenan. This was WWE TV, so it was much stuff going on with Ric Flair at that particular time. So that was a big 91 was something else. I think 92 is where he did, win the WWE Championship. But I know there was a big issue, Ric Flair and the Big Gold Belt. Like a big issue. And like I said, that's another story for another day. It really is. But I know he went through that whole thing with Japan, with Fujinami. But like I said, we got to keep in mind as well that he had issues later on, because this was July 91 where he had the issue with, like I said, Jim Herd, the vice president of WCW. He refused to return Flair's $25,000 deposit. Remind you, Ric Flair just finished going through losing in controversial fashion due to DQ, losing belt over the top rope to Fujinami. Then he went to get the belt back 2 months later in May of 1991 after this original match in March of 91. Then July 91, it just was not the best year for Flair. He was known for having a big gold belt, but Jim Herd would not return that $25,000 deposit, and it led him to taking his belt and going on WTV, having the big gold belt debut on WWE television. So they stripped him of the belt. WCW, stripped Flair the belt. They introduced a new title design. That's why we saw that blue and black title that Vader and Ron Simmons held. So it was just a crazy year. 1991 was a wild year for Ric Flair, with the whole Fujinami title, then the whole dispute over the $25,000 over the belt. So it was crazy. Other than that, though, this is all I have regarding where New Japan screwed Ric Flair over in Japan. The dirtiest player in the game got played. He definitely got played. So you may say he deserved it due to, like I said earlier, him bailing out on the match versus Great Muta in 90, because Ric Flair disagreed with the money, how much he should have got paid. Or you could say Ric Flair was done wrong. Whatever you may choose. You guys in live chat, let me know what you think of these matches. Super Brawl and the New Japan match. March 91, the first match at the Japan Supershow. And, of course, Super Brawl 2 months later. And then even the whole title situation I mentioned. But I'm going to make a separate live on that one. So, also, Toss Race Scan, I just launched a new membership. It's going to be 3 tiers. One for $5.99, $6.99, $9.99. I will have exclusive content of shorts, videos, other content. And later on, I know for the biggest package, may have member only live streams. So stay tuned for that. We'll upload content in the membership tiers. So keep an eye out on that. I appreciate all you guys supporting the channel. But that's all I have regarding this live stream tonight. Other than that, 2 videos will pop up. The first video will be, should Mandy Rose ever wrestle again? Second video will be when Hulk Hogan exposes New Japan Pro Wrestling, NJPW. Until then, it is OUT.